Okay, it's Saturday, May 14 or Sunday, May 15. John Butler, how are you
Yes,
feeling and what do you expect out of the day?
I feel great. I'd just like to learn a little more. I've missed you. I've been away for a couple of weeks. In fact, I think I might have missed last week, Mother's Day, and I missed a couple of Sundays ago. So anyway, it's good to be back. Good to be back. Looking forward to learning a little more today. Always keen to learn more. So Anne, how do you feel and what do you hope to take out of today?
Yep, thank you, John. I'm relieved actually that I got it, and I didn't like move away thinking that I can't get in today. Yeah, Kelly, really, it's great to have you because always a great week when you're around with us. Okay, so looking forward to hearing more from you, yeah, just waiting for our today's discussions. Okay, and Manu, how do you feel and what do you hope to get out today?
I feel good. It's nice to have Kelly again around. What I expect of a call today is that we continue. I mean, it seems to be plain that, we are in between nature playing his game with his rule and me in between interacting with things and trying to build anti-entropic construct to make local life in sync and better and improve. So that to me seemed to be what we are aiming for. And I'm happy that we explored that together and we find some application, each of us. Actual fact, it has to be a process that every time there is something discussed, we always have to be trying to see how it applies or how we apply it in our environment. That's what I would expect of this course. And then educating, and then progressing, and then traveling together in joy and exchange, and in progress. That's what I expect. Maybe it's lofty, but that's what I expect. Kelly, how do you feel? What do you expect?
Well, I try to battle it every week, but I always feel tired. I'm still feeling tired, but I'm getting better. How do I feel? I feel excited. I mean, to see the picture of the black hole and stuff around that. So I think that's really intriguing that they've got pictures of the black hole now. And it doesn't seem to be that much different to what we're talking about. They're the center of something and all the swirling around it and so on. So I've been fascinated by that this week. As you can see, my hair seems to get curly with all of this, my being tired. My hair seems to curl more. So we'll see what happens. What I want to get out of this week, I want to just be here and listen to what's going on and contribute whatever little I can. So that's how I feel. That's what I want to take away. Steve, how do you feel and what do you take away?
Wow.
What do you want to take away?
Yeah. I felt really good until I had these technical issues. So I'm taking a big, deep breath and I'm being present to this. I love this finding the black hole in the center of of our galaxy. And then they found two. They got another black hole, the center of the galaxy next door. It's like 10,000 times bigger than the galaxy, than the black hole in the center of our galaxy. But it's further away, but it's 10,000 times bigger. So they're building pictures of the universe, and everything seems to be energy. Everything seems to be vibrating, and everything seems to be an interrelationship. And that boggles my mind. And I think that's what Bucky was talking about. And I'm still grabbing threads and doing what I can to catch up with everything. Has everybody shared now at the beginning?
Yeah.
Joe needs to go. I thought maybe he was there. Joe, how are you feeling and what's your takeaway today?
I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm looking forward to, it's good to see everybody. I'm looking forward to exploring a little bit more about how the self fits within this cosmic hierarchy. So I've had a lot of conversations about the idea self this week. So understanding it from Bucky's terms will actually be very, very helpful and enlightening. And it's great to see Kelly. I wish I could get my hair to curl. And other than that, I'm doing great. So
Good.
so that
So-
I'm complete. I'm complete.
All right, good. You're complete. Okay, so JR, Joe and Manu, did you guys get emails from me in the last 2 minutes? Because in case my internet drops, that's the what we're doing tonight. And what we're focusing on is the 18 me's. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead while I can and share and give you guys kind of like an overview. We did a month ago, we started out with Synergetics 105610. And in Synergetics 105610, Bucky gives some basic, what he calls cosmic hierarchy of comprehensively embracing generalizations. He talks about integrity. He talks about synergy. He talks about nature. He talks about all that is unknown and all that, and finally, all that is known, the universe. He calls it universe. When we went to 105620, the next thing in Synergetics, he presents the same information, but now we're in a format that basically he calls, and that I shouldn't have screwed that up. Here is hierarchy of comprehensively embracing and permeating generalizations of generalization. And so he's inviting us to transition in our thought a little bit. The first part of 105620 is just a review of 105610. And here he says refer to 105620 at each step. And here he's inviting us to refer back to 105610 at each step. That kind of gives you an idea of what is going on. So we did this one week, we did this another week, and then what we did this the next week, which is the physical, the centropic. Oh, I think it was metaphysical up here. These lines are a little bit weird. They should all go up a little bit. So we did metaphysical, physical, synergy, entropy, and that's exciting. That's what I need is my computer. Astrophysics, solar systems, plural, and Earth, meaning planetary systems, and then biological relating to those. And then he goes into this formula thing. Now, very interestingly, this formula down here, which is cosmic integrity, synergy, nature, all that is unknown and all that is known, somehow he brings these red things together with these red things, and he doesn't talk about the blue things. Interesting. And so this is kind of a summary formula for this comprehensively embracing and penetrating, or permeating rather, generalization of generalizations. Very interesting. And last week, when we did this, we did this stuff last week, and now we're doing this stuff today. And so we're going to go with the me's. And notice that in this formula down here that goes across here at the bottom of this, and I think it actually can be seen better up here, this last element in this formula of embracing and permeating generalizations of generalizations is this symbol right here, is me. And there are 18 of these me's. There's only one of these and there's only one of those, and there are 18. We're going to do those 18 me's today. Any comments or questions on where we've been or where we're going?
It's interesting that the symbol me turns towards everything else. Whereas, so when you look at your formula,
Okay.
your formula up,
Yeah.
you see your me turns towards everything else.
This is the me right here.
Yeah, and so when you look at the symbol itself, the symbol is it's turning away.
Yeah.
And,
It's in the bottom left-hand corner of every one of these.
yeah.
except of course for the U. Yeah,
And I-
very interesting. Go ahead.
I just find that interesting that you know, when he's doing his symbolism, that he does that. So he's got his rectangle, and
Yeah.
when he finally gets down to the final symbol, it's like turning away.
Yeah, we're kind of, last week we got into this in a major way, and we talked about, this is me and you. Let's go back to this sheet because this is where we ended up last time. We went through humanity. I'm going to get up a little closer here. We went through humanity. And what we talked about was, it's interesting to go through as he lists hierarchies, 25, 24, 23, he counts them down in reverse. And as we consider, we're kind of deconstructing, going from all of humanity to me. But it's also interesting to rebuild and go from me up to humanity and notice how that works. One of the things we discussed was the symbol for we was you and me, toe to toe and eyeball to eyeball. And that we are the foundation of humanity and philosophy and nations. And we talked about what's included in these symbols, and we talked about what's omitted. So, and this is really good. We got good recordings on this. We've had great discussions. And what we're going to do tonight is we're starting with 18, as long as I have internet. And if I don't, then you guys can take over without me, but it should continue to record. And Manu and Joe, you guys have the ability to turn the recording off and on. So if I'm no longer here, you can take care of it, okay? I noticed there's a little chat. Where we're going to start is with the 18th me. Well, we discussed this me last week, but we're going to go down through all these different me's and see exactly, see what Bucky had in mind when he talked about me. I want to bring up one other thing that I think is really profound. And I don't think, yeah, here it is. When we go up to cosmic integrity up here, there are actually 3 symbols he uses for cosmic integrity. There's this symbol right here, which we could talk about. This symbol is a, oh geez, I had notes on this and I forgot about this. I'll find it while we're talking. This symbol is a pentagon surrounded by hexagons. And Manu,
The truncated icosahedron.
It's called an icosahedron, is that correct?
Truncated.
A truncated icosahedron. And we can spend some time and talk about this symbol. But notice that's a symbol for cosmic integrity. Another symbol for cosmic integrity is me. And then another symbol for cosmic integrity is this little bow tie guy right here. All 3 of these symbols represent cosmic integrity. And in this formula, we start out with cosmic integrity and we end with cosmic integrity. Evidently, perhaps this is macro and this is micro. But all of these are generalizations of generalization. Wow. Comments or questions?
I think the me that you have there is a me in between.
Yeah.
An embracing macro
Yeah.
and an embracing micro. Now you are in between. And that's when you now, in terms of your interrogations, going to define what is relevancy and what is, how do you apply that to solving your local problems?
Yeah.
It is in your in between. I mean, you explore and you implore. You
Yeah.
explore and you implore.
And we are in between. Joe
Yes.
was bringing up these irrelevancies. And
Yes.
and I combined 3 or 4 of the different relevancy symbols because this drives me crazy and I'm trying to figure out what Bucky's saying. So I put 3 or 4 of these diagrams together into one diagram. And notice that the me right here is in between the concave and the convex. I tried to put it over here, but it got too dadgum crowded. And that's kind of what Manu was talking about. He brought it up in this diagram. It seems to talk about it pretty well. And of course, here's the generalizations of generalization formula down here. And anyway, that relates to the circle of irrelevancies. Notice that Bucky doesn't call them circles of relevancy. He calls them irrelevancies, which is interesting.
Well,
Comments or
in
questions?
Bucky's language, irrelevancies is always more than relevancy.
Aha.
Yeah, it
Because
is the
the
reservoir.
unknown
It is the
is
reservoir of what you know.
yeah. The unknown is more than what is the known.
Yeah.
It's the
That we only
potential.
see. What's that, Joe?
It's the potential.
Yeah. And Bucky talks about how we see less than 1%, 0.9, right? Of reality. So there's the me in between. Comments, questions? Cool. Okay, so I think this is the actual page we're doing today. No, this is not the page. This is again the summary page. Yeah, here's the page we're doing starting today. So keeping in mind that we started with humanity in general, and me is a left cornerstone in all of these concepts or generalizations. And now let's start with 18 and start examining all of the me's. I'm ready.
It's
let's-
interesting. It's
Go ahead.
interesting if you just go back a little bit, just a notification there on the me day, and to see where we and others are in
Yeah.
terms of hierarchy. It's very interesting.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and to me, this chart means a lot more when I start at the bottom and move up than it does when I start at the top and move down, or it means something equally different. Because it's like, I don't have my magnets here with me, but it's like I start with a dot, right? And then I interrelate with another dot. That's the little bow tie. And here's the dot. And here's the dot relating to the other dot. And that's how consciousness begins, according to Bucky. Comments, questions? What else have you noticed? We had a great discussion on this last week, you guys. So listen to that recording. Okay, here we go. And Mr. Butler, you're here with us tonight. I just invite us to invite you to start read 18. Let's have a complete discussion of it. Then let's move to 17. And I wonder right now, if I just ask you to list elements of you, what makes you uniquely you? If you ask me, what makes me uniquely me? I'm not sure I could come up with 18 things. So this is a challenge, I think. Bucky saw something in Hugh beingness. Bucky saw something in the me-ness of the universe. And let's see if we can get a window as to our own personal potential from what Bucky presents here. Comments, questions on that premise?
Well, we are multifaceted, and these are some of the facets.
Yes.
And within each of the facets, there are different elements. So, for example, the intuitive me includes synergetically coordinating sense, intellect, exploring sensor, glimpsor, initiator. The combination is to synergetically coordinate sense and intellect, and to explore sense, glimpsor, and initiator. This is us intuitively.
Yeah, here's intellect, kind of like as a name for synergetically coordinate sense.
Well, there's an intuitive intellect, and there's a logical intellect. He uses intellect twice. He's got intellect in 18,
right,
in the intuitive. So there's an unconscious intellect, an intuitive intellect. And my experience is sometimes I'm connected with it, but most of the time I'm not. I think we have been trained and conditioned to think of our intellect as something connected to our logic. We think and we reason intellect rather than trusting our intuitive intellect. That's my experience and understanding.
Let's go a little bit to the basic, what we've been discussing about brain and mind duality. What is used first? Is it the brain or the mind?
Is this a trick question, Manu?
Yes,
No, it's
it
not
is.
trick. It's actual fact, you know, in
The
there.
brain,
It explains that hierarchy. What is used first? You first sense and bank it.
right?
So
So it's
you're
And then
saying
you
that
and then you relate. Relating means dividing and putting parts together. That's what relating means. You can't
So
divide
you're
something
saying-
that you've not yet banked.
So you're saying we synergetically coordinate our senses before there's logic. We have an
Yes.
intellect that represents something intuitive, and we're intuiting the universe.
Yes, you intuit
where-
first. Always is always intuition first.
And we have a
It
glimpse.
is. Yeah, you are born with an operating system in you. You
Yeah.
come in with that already in you. That is sensing. A
Yeah.
baby born out of a womb of his mother just cries because it senses that the temperature is now different. It's cold, it's crying. It's no more 37 degrees Celsius. It's something else. So it senses that is just natural.
Yeah. And
So you
infant,
sense, yes, you sense it, you sense and bang. And then you start, is after that the meaning comes to, the relationship comes to. It's not before.
an infant is trying to get a glimpse of mother's breast, exploring senses,
Yeah.
initiating, intuiting. I'm going to suck. And I don't think the infant knows that it's going to suck to survive, but that's what it does. And that's
And it's interesting in the hierarchy here still, that the me was again cosmic integrity represented. You see at this level.
yes.
So you are in there now, and then you start again and you divide.
Yeah.
It's like a fractal of the original. The me is a fractal of the original. So you are in there and then you dividing now. Dividing in what and what? You divide in the intuit and what you make as a relationship between those things. You intuit first, and then it is divided, and then you see a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Like
why
you
you have that
get a
hierarchy
glimpse.
of the intuitive before the me intellect.
Yeah. Both are kinds of intellect, as John pointed out. One is intuitive and synergetic and exploratory, getting glimpses of things. And then there's another part of me that's logical conceptioning and putting the dots together,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, I've got something to share here because I think I brought this up before about the enteric brain, right? So because what it says here is that there's intellect in also the intuitive part of who we are.
Right.
And so we're looking at intuition, which is actually coming from the enteric nervous system. Now, this article I found online is from Johns Hopkins Medicine, and it was COVID-19 updates, yeah? So it says here, scientists call this little brain the enteric nervous system, and it's not so little. The ENS is two thin layers of more than 100 million nerve cells lining our gastrointestinal tract. And this is something else that it says. Okay. Yeah, it actually goes back and forth between okay, it says here, it communicates back and forth with our big brain with profound results. And for decades, researchers and doctors thought that anxiety and depression contributed to these problems. But our studies and others show that it may also be the other way around. So there are a lot of research now going on around in a lot of universities on this enteric brain. So the whole idea of having two going on, I think you got it because it's the enteric brain and our intellect up here that is communicating back and forth, and both are being used at the same time. So I don't know.
It's been actual fact established, and that has been for quite a few years now. It's at least 10 years that your TI track is actually part of your brain.
The TI track?
It's part of, there are components of your brain in your TI, on your TI track. In other words, there are brain cells that are permeating
The entire
directly, your TI track.
Okay, according to my neuroscientist, resident neuroscientist in our school, right? He's got PhD from the University of Toronto. So he's done a lot of extensive research on this. It seems we have three brains, and the three of them actually operate separately. It's just that they communicate with one another. Yeah, three. One here, one at the heart, and one at the gut here. Just above our, like where the yeah. So it seems there are three separate brains, and they function separately, but they with one another.
They say that the gut brain is as big as a dog's brain. It's that smart. It's coordinating our gut.
Yeah.
And our gut has more non-human DNA in it than it has human DNA in it.
Yeah. And I wouldn't dare say they are separated still. Like I say, I would not dare so, because it is evolving. It is part of Veritas. We are, that thing is changing. 10 years from now, maybe the thought will be completely, different.
Cool. So Anne, are you complete with your thought here? Thank you for putting that in. What else?
Yeah. Yep, I'm complete. Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on that? Okay. I'm gonna, and I don't know when to say this, I'm afraid we're gonna forget. I think I'm gonna keep track and give myself a score for intuitive. I'm gonna give myself a score. I'm gonna say I got 0 intuition or 10, and I'm really intuitive. Where would I put myself in that score of the intuitive part of me, which seems to be foundational? And then where would I put my logical conceptioning mathematics part of me? So if I give myself, what's that? Joe, what'd you say? Joe, did you say something?
I don't know. Maybe Joe, can you hear me?
Can you hear
Steve,
us,
can
Joe?
you hear me?
I can hear you, Manu. Can you hear anything,
Okay,
Joe?
cool.
Oh, I think he put it on mute and he's having a phone call. That's what he's doing. So give yourself, I'm going to give myself an intuitive score. I'm going to give myself a logical conceptioning score. And then John kind of put these two together. Any other comments on these two? We'll go
Well,
to
you have to do that. You have to do that in the context.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with Manu.
Yeah, it was only in the context of this call, because the me intuitive and the me intellect evolve depending on the context. In other words, it is so complex relationship. It is interrelationship of things that maybe my being into this meeting, participating in it, actually multiply geometrically my intuitive index or whatever that we measure it. Same for intellectual. So my grading, being alone or in this group, I suspect will differ greatly. That's the comments I wanted to say.
I like to add something to it. I think the intuitive part, if you are scoring it, you might need to score it in context as to what you're most intuitive in, you know, because my strong intuition is actually dealing with people and also young like teenagers and children, right? But I have absolutely no intuition when it comes to plants and other life stock or you know, animals. Or in fact, I have zero intuition when it comes to the science part of the physical science, like physics and whatever we're talking about here. Okay, so I think we may need to also decide intuitive in which area if we are you know, scoring it. Yeah.
And I wonder if, Anne, if that is just about habit. It's about, you know, it could be about what I'm interested in. It could be I have a special gift with special intuition in one category or another. And I think the invitation here from Bucky is to say, hey, we are part of cosmic integrity. We have this ability to synergetically connect and coordinate with the entire universe. Yes, we have special talents and gifts, but I think it's, to me, I'm going to take this as an invitation to stretch, right? And I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. I noticed you're absolutely right. People tend to be, they tend to have gifts or tendencies, but I wonder sometimes if I leave part of me behind because I'm so focused on something that's fun for me or easy for me. So anyway.
Okay, having been nurturing children and teens for so long, right? It actually shows up a lot because it's really dependent, because sometimes you meet people, how come you can come up with this? How come you can sense it? Where does it come from? And they're like, well, it just pops up and they just sense it and they just come up with a solution. Or even like, say for instance, one of my partners, he's really great with plants, right? And it's from nothing he reads from his school books or anything. From very young, he has this very natural sense with creatures and plants. So if someone's plant is dying, pass it to him, he'll be able to revive it, right? So it just comes up. And then yes, you know that he does do research, but we can do research, but we will not, I know that I will never come up with the same results that he gets with his plant, you know? Yeah.
I like
so
that.
I think,
Yeah, but I wonder how many kids had a gift like that and went to a school or had a family that told them, you don't know anything, shut up and sit down. And they didn't develop that gift. And how lucky he is to have you in his presence to say, wow, you have some intuition there, go for it, develop it. And I wonder how many,
actually,
go ahead.
Sorry. Steve, actually what you brought up here is really powerful for me, because you know, we are the way we are moving forward with our school is actually we are nurturing. First and foremost, we are helping kids to explore and discover their superpowers, right? And they're exploring. They don't know what it's going to be half the time, and our job is to nurture those superpowers, right? And when you spoke about this, it's just giving me the science behind it. It's really fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Millennium Project moving forward, also, I'm going to be bringing in this cosmic hierarchy of comprehensively, you know, ... Since this is part of that hierarchy, I'm writing this down now. I'm highlighting it because I really need to put this in, because this is what we need to nurture in kids.
And how fortunate this guy is to have you supervising his education. And how many human beings have not had such a blessing in their life? And let's hope that your model of teaching spreads just in terms of your vision. How wonderful this would be if my cosmic intuition had been acknowledged when I was a kid, you know? Wow. Yeah. Comments, questions? Okay, good. And I'm trying to get this thing to share. Okay, good. Okay, John, let's go for the next two together too, because you intuitively connected 18 and 17. I wonder if there's that same kind of connection between 16 and 15. John, you want to read? Oh, I can't hear you, John. You got your,
Steve, we can't see your screen is too
You're
small.
muted,
I mean,
John.
what you're showing.
my screen is full screen for me, guys.
Yeah, but you have to take out your picture and then display the text.
I put all the pictures at the bottom of my
We're
screen.
back in business. We're back in business. I had it there and then it disappeared again.
Okay, good. I can make it a little bit bigger,
No,
Manu.
no, no. So we've done intuitive and intellect. So the intellect, of course, is mathematics and logical conceptioning, which we as humans, I think is most important. Now we've got me sensorial, subjective, objective, brain, neuron, storing, retrieving, commanding. Well, without the sensorial and without the brain and the neurons, I think we struggle to function intellectually, the intellect. The sensorial, I think, is related more to the intuitive than to the intellect. And it's just interesting to think of these as different facets of me. And I think the situation we're in has an impact on these. If I'm in a classroom, I'm more likely to be me, the intellect, mathematics, logical conceptioning. If I'm in a personal relationship, I may be more in touch with the intuitive. And this, the sensorial, is this more how we can be influenced by the feeling of the room, the fragrance of the room, the things that have an impact on us that we might not even be consciously aware of. And yet this is talking about storing, retrieving, commanding. So more like data. It's called it sensorial, but when I think of, walking into a room and being influenced by the quiet music in the background or the fragrance, I think of that more as intuitive rather than sensorial, but it is sensorial. And then the memory banks. This is all the stuff we accumulate, and it can be conscious, unconscious, in the brain or in the senses. The things we feel and experience, so concepts, data, the stuff that's libraryed, microfiched, computer programmed, interrelated, memory banked. I'm a little confused when we talk about me with retrieval through satellite relay anywhere. I suppose I'm in front of a screen, I've got access to the internet, I can access a whole lot of data that is beyond what I can comfortably store in my brain. It's just quite interesting and exciting to think of the different aspects of ourselves.
When he says storing and retrieving, I mean, that's what we do all the time, but
Yep.
Commanding is a quite a different thing.
Yeah, explain that, Kelly. What is commanding to you? What do you see there?
Well, commanding is like I haven't noticed it before now, but I'm really into store and retrieve.
Yeah.
And I know that we store something and we retrieve it at a later date. But at a later date, is that do you command something at that later date, or do you do it now? And so to me, the commanding doesn't seem to match.
Yeah.
I think
go ahead. Mike.
I would say, I think commanding is directing. I can store, I can retrieve, but I can direct it as a vector towards another receptor.
Yeah, but
that's what I think it would be.
Yeah, but commanding is different from directing.
Well, what I see here, because here is Bucky pointing out memory banked me, and even saying that me is retrieval through satellite relay. Bucky is so far ahead of his freaking time. If he saw Zoom going on right now, if he saw Google doing what Google's doing right now, he'd blow he's prophesying all that with this. And for me, this commanding is simple. If you think, when I think back to my CPM operating system, everything I did with commands. So I would store stuff on a disk. and I would retrieve stuff off this disk, but I did it by giving my computer commands. In other words, look for this now, right? So there's something about my brain and my neurons that will store something, that'll retrieve something, and then I give myself a command to store it and or to retrieve it. I'm wondering if that's the context that he's talking about here.
I find it interesting to think of this as sensorial rather than memory banked.
Yeah.
When we talk
Yeah,
about retrieving, I think more about memory banking.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Say again, John.
When I think about commanding or retrieving, I think more about memory banking rather than sensorial. Memory banking is storing the data, then retrieving the data. But here we're talking about sensorial as storing and retrieving. I suppose there is different material we store and retrieve sensorially to what we store and retrieve in a memory bank sense.
Yeah, and I think there's a
How does that differ though, John?
Evan?
How does that differ?
15, I think of more, I'm going to store this data, so it's more a conscious thing. Then the sensorial is more often unconscious. I have an experience, I may make no conscious decision to store it, but the experience, walking in and opening the front door and smelling something cooking is a sensorial thing. So that may go back to my childhood, memories of mum making a fresh cake, anticipating what's coming. That's
storage.
Yeah, but it's sensorial storage rather than, oh,
Memory
I want
bank.
to remember that. I've just...
Other than memory bank.
John, let me ask you a question. Is a satellite a sensor or not?
Is what,
Is a
Manu?
satellite?
A satellite.
No, I don't think of that as sensorial. I think of it as memory banking. It's something I do consciously.
In Bucky's language, it's a sensor.
Well, he put it under memory banked. He put satellites under memory banked.
Which is where I would see it.
Steve, you can't cut like that. It's the use of a satellite. In this context, you can have a satellite as a sensor. You know, when you say the command, when you type a command on your language software, you say, I command this, right? It goes somewhere, feed it, and probably bring it back to you in an expected way.
Okay.
And these two are always working together.
But I would argue that the satellite is not a sensorial device. It's simply a relay. It's retrieval through relay. At least that's the way Bucky saw it in this.
What do you call a sensor in the relay?
Well, a sensor is a subject or an object. And I think this is something that's really powerful here that most people don't see. If I approach this like with a sense of syntax, and if I study language like Japanese, you have a subject and you have an object and then you have a verb. And the brain right away, the first thing it does is it says, is this a subject or is this an object? I think that's the first thing. And then the brain interacts with it with a verb at the end. English is a little bit different. German puts their verbs at the end. Japanese puts the verbs at the end. I think Chinese does too. Too bad.
But Steve, this is science.
It's what?
This is science. Yeah. The objective, the subjective, and the objective are always interplaying. Always.
They are.
Yes.
And that's absolutely true. And then somehow
so the brain neuron, the storing, retrieving, commanding, they're always interplaying.
True. But then somehow this is separate. The sensorial aspect, is this a subject? Is this an object? I have brain and I have neurons that do the sensorial thing. I have storing, retrieving, and I have commands to say store this or retrieve that. But somehow now the memory banked me is the book, the library, the microfiche, the computer programmed, interrelated memory bank around the planet, retrieval through satellite anywhere. Somehow this memory bank me is a different me than the sensorial me.
When you use different, okay, you can accept it different, but one doesn't exist without the other.
Oh, that's true.
So the me whole is still here. The mere cosmic integrity is still. And what we try in the 18 is just seeing from different perspective. It is still, I mean, it is the whole story of a construct. How do we put things together to understand?
Yeah.
How do we understand what we are contemplating or what we feel?
Yeah.
So to me, I wouldn't put, I mean, it is, I understand that the me intellectual, mathematic, logical conceptioning, relation, the me sensorial, I understand it like that. You know, I actually feel it. It's not something that I'm going to put an objective value on.
I like what John put on the sensorial when he brought it up. Like right now, people get COVID, they have no sense of smell or taste. Yet they have a brain, they have neurons, they have active, they're able to store and retrieve and command. It's just they don't have a sense of taste and they don't have a sense of smell.
But they have a sense of touch.
They have a sense of touch, but their sensorial aspect has been abbreviated by that disease. So the sensorial aspect is different than the intuitive or the intellectual or the memory bank. It's a different part of me. Just idea.
When you're talking about this, when you say that, when you read the formula, it says less than. This
Actually,
is less than. So 18 is greater than 17.
Well,
16.
Yes.
yeah, but we did one night when you weren't here, we looked at that and the less than formula. Let me find that formula. It's an inclusive. It's inclusive and it's permeating and it's embracing. And the symbol, we've decided that less than was not necessarily a good use of that. It was not a good interpretation of that symbol.
But it's there, Steve. It's there. It's
Mhm.
it's saying cosmic integrity is greater than synergy.
It's embracing. It's embracing and permeating. These are generalizations of generalization. So we can say less than, but that's not what the heading says here.
But when you go
something else.
down through these, you've got to see it as less than.
Do you think you is less than me?
Doesn't it say it starts with me and then you and then expanding and the greater is universe?
Yes.
It starts the universe. No, the greater is not universe. Universe is down the
cosmic
list.
integrity. Sorry, cosmic integrity is beyond
me,
universe. Yes.
Me is cosmic integrity.
Well, I'm a part of cosmic integrity.
Yeah, I don't see that as the same, Steve. I see that you put the two together there and you
I
interpret
didn't put it
that
together. This is the chart that he puts out. That symbol.
Yes.
That symbol
Yes,
is there,
but
right next
when
to
he
that.
puts it there,
I
he
put this
puts it
here.
as the whole formula. It's cosmic integrity right down to me.
Well, except that cosmic integrity doesn't exist without me.
I'm not sure that's true.
Neither am I.
I think cosmic integrity is beyond us. If the Earth were to suddenly self-destruct, if we were to destroy spaceship Earth, would the universe cease to exist? Would cosmic integrity cease to exist? I don't think so.
Neither
I
do
think
I.
that's the
Yes.
message that Bucky is giving us, is that there is something sacred and special about individual awareness.
Yes.
And I'm not so sure that if I weren't here, it would be irrelevant whether cosmic integrity existed.
Now, cosmic integrity would exist without us, in my opinion. It's only an
I don't
opinion.
think so. I don't think, but you can hold that opinion, but I think that Bucky's trying to tell us that there's something very special about me.
So we're an essential part of cosmic integrity, in your opinion.
Absolutely correct. And if I weren't here, the universe wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be the
If you're
same.
not in the forest, the tree
Steve,
doesn't.
Steve,
make a
let me
sound.
ask you a question that is physical, right?
What is physical?
And now I'm just asking you a question to help understand all of this. So you have a bucket of water
Okay.
and you take a small pint, you know, like an ounce of some colorant, and you put in water.
Yeah.
The water, that colorant is going to disperse all over the water.
That is what's going to happen to it?
It'll
The
disperse.
colorant is going to disperse.
It'll
percolate
dilute itself
all the
down
water.
into the water.
Yes. Is the volume of the colorant and that of water the same?
Yeah. A water molecule is a water molecule, and it is a fractal of water molecule-ness. I am a
No, I'm
fractal.
talking here because you're neglecting the context here. I'm saying there is a bucket. A bucket is 5 liters of water. I fill it. And then I take an ounce of a colorant, whatever colorant in it, and I pour it. And let's even say that the colorant, not the colorant, but another something, let's say alcohol, which is not kind of, it doesn't take color. I just put alcohol into that water.
Okay.
Like your pool, when you take salt, you take a bag of salt, you put in your pool. The salt will dissolve and be everywhere in the pool. But now the content of your pool is, I don't know how many times the content of the water in your pool, I don't know how many times is that of the salt that you pour in there. The whole volume of a thing hasn't changed significantly.
That depends on how you calibrate it, because the water,
No,
the molecule.
no, I'm just asking about the embracing and the
Well,
hierarchy.
It depends on how you calibrate it, because you could say this water just turned green because I put something in there. But if I were to go and
No,
calibrate,
it doesn't take green. I'm saying you take fresh water and fill your pool.
Okay.
And take a bag of 20 kg of salt that is crystal white. When you dissolve salt in that pool, when you throw it in the pool, it will dissolve. And that salt will be everywhere. It will be permeating everywhere, because you can measure the concentration of salt at different points in your pool, it will be the same. But in terms of hierarchy, embracing, you wouldn't compare that salt and water. The two embrace to make something, salted water, but in that embracing is the water that has permitted the salt to embrace, to permeate. So I would say water embraces salt. And that is the hierarchy.
Water embraces everything. Yeah. And I wish Susan were here to talk about the 4th phase of water, because I think that I think it's a wonderful analogy, but I think it's oversimplified, and it goes beyond the point of the sacredness of the cosmic integrity of me-ness. And that's what Bucky's trying to teach us. And, even Stephen Hawking said that if the universe had 1 to the minus 50th less matter in the universe, it would have at the Big Bang expanded. And without that little piece of whatever, it would have continued to expand into nothing. And we wouldn't have a universe. The universe is in perfect balance because every ounce of mass, every quantum of mass is accounted for. And if that quantum weren't there, we wouldn't have the universe. And if there had been an extra quantum, the universe would have expanded to its present size. And then because that extra quantum was there, it would have had too much gravity, and boom, it would have recollapsed back. We wouldn't have a universe. Stephen Hawking teaches that every aspect of the universe is critical for it to exist. And I think that Bucky is telling us that.
Okay, Steve, let's just put it this way.
Okay.
With that synergy, there is no our universe.
Okay.
but without our universe, there is synergy.
I don't know. Okay.
Yes.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I mean,
You
I mean,
you
we
can't argue that
haven't,
because
you know, okay, Steve, how will you describe this biosphere, even this one that we live in,
okay.
when we did not yet exist, when there were just dinosaurs? Or when there was only, you know, plankton.
Yeah, we'll go back to before the dinosaurs and before the plankton.
Yes,
Go back
yes, when
to
they were
cosmic
just
integrity.
where they were just algae.
What?
Algae.
As is.
Algae. You know, algae, the green thing, the really
Algae.
Oh, algae or
Yeah.
algae. Okay, yeah, algae.
So when they were just that, was it not the biosphere?
Yeah, the design was still there. The only thing that separates us from the algae at the beginning is time, and that's a figment of our imagination. Everything exists all at once. Time is imaginary. The human brain stores stuff and stores it chronologically in order to comprehend it. But that doesn't talk about the nature of the universe. It talks about the nature of the human brain.
But aren't you just talking about calibration, Steve?
I've said calibration 3 times. I agree. There's
Yeah.
a calibration factor in here.
Yeah, but when you look at it, when you go down through the cosmic hierarchy, aren't you calibrating? Aren't you saying cosmic integrity is this, me is that, and you show the two symbols together? And not that they're the same, they're different because you have the scale going down.
It's just a different way to calibrate because they are
Yes,
embracing and permeating. They're embracing and permeating.
Yeah, and when he breaks it down, that's what he's breaking down. He's breaking down how they embrace and how they permeate.
Kelly, just to have a bit of clarity here, because I think we got caught when we were doing the cosmic integrity thing, going down the hierarchy. We got caught with that symbol that says more than, right? So now if I look at say number 21, okay? So if I'm following that more than sign, we couldn't make sense of this. If we follow then the more than signs, it means that others are more than we are more than you are more than they, and they are more than me. Is that how it works?
Yes, relationship-wise.
That's what I would say, yes.
And I would
More
say
than me.
absolutely not. That's why I found it powerful to go this way, to go back up the scale. So I don't agree with you, and I don't think I'm right and you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't agree with you.
But
I don't think
he numbers it all out, Steve. He numbers it 1 to 18 as me, then 19, 20. I don't know how you can read it any more than less than or greater than.
Well, are you saying the intellectual me is less than the intuitive me?
Probably, according to
Well,
Fuller, it is.
I don't know, because we go up here and we talk about nature and unknown. And this was the big surprise when we went through this, is that universe was at the bottom of this list. Everybody thought universe
but
was at the
Steve,
top of
I
the list.
think I always come back to this one, and that is a trap that is always open to us. We think of things. It is relation. Bucky is strictly, his geometry is about relationship.
About interrelationship, yeah.
Yes, relationship and interrelationship. And in those, there's a hierarchy. Whenever, you know, that is the basic of every model that you put together. It is a model of relationship between things.
Yeah.
And in that relationship, you say, for example, you take a relationship of the equivalence of mass and energy. It is more general than the Newton equation of motion.
Yeah.
It is more general. In other words, everything it explains, everything that the Newton's geometry explains, plus something else. That's what it means.
Yeah.
So you know, the we explain more things than the me only. It's a hierarchy. In terms of explanation, in terms of
hierarchy, the brain wants to make something more or less than something else in a hierarchy. And this is not saying something is more or less. This is saying that everything is comprehensively embracing and permeating, and that these are different ways to calibrate that all embracing and all permeating reality of thingness. And
yeah, but it doesn't mean that, see, we discussed this a long time ago in terms of integrity is integrity of relationship that forms some stuff that is always true. So you can't, there's no way that nature will be above synergy. It doesn't work.
yeah, it does. What part
How?
of nature, let me ask this question. What part of nature does not have synergy in it? And what part of synergy does not have nature in it?
Okay, what is synergy, Steve? Because that we need to understand that. What is synergy?
Well, we can read the definition of what synergy is.
Synchronized energy.
Yes.
Okay, what part of nature does not have synchronized energy in it? And what part of synchronized energy does not have nature in it?
Oh, there's a lot.
And they are embracing and permeating. They embrace each other and they permeate each other. They don't exist without the other. What part of universe does not have cosmic integrity in it? What part of cosmic integrity does not have universe in it?
Steve.
They're not
Steve.
mutually exclusive in any way. They are embracing.
Okay, let me just get you on one that we intuit and understand well. The unknown and the known. The known is universe.
True.
Okay, universe is part of the unknown because it's unknown that has been revealed to us
And
as known.
unknown is part of the universe.
No,
No, it's beyond. No, it's beyond. It's
no,
greater.
no,
Steve, can I ask you a question? Hang on.
no.
Oh my gosh.
Steve, if
Okay.
we're part of a universe, are there other universes?
Yeah.
And if there are other universes, does not cosmic integrity apply to them?
We don't know.
Whether our universe exists or not.
We don't know.
I think this says it does.
It must be.
Under
Steve.
his definition is the thing. It's got nothing to do with whether what you know or what you don't know. It's got to do with, he's saying cosmic integrity breaks into synergy, breaks into nature. And when he has that little me sign beside that, I think that says unity is plural at a minimum of two. I don't think they're related in any other way.
Yeah.
Because it's saying when you break it down, you finally get to this me, and then there's 19 points of me.
What does embracing mean?
Well, yeah.
What
Yeah.
part of embracing is not inclusion? These are the sphere of inclusion.
Yeah, but the sphere of inclusion doesn't mean that it can't be unity as plural at minimum of two.
A unit, it's the whole thing is unity. There is no non-unity represented here. It's all unity. It is all embracing and all permeating. One does not exist without the other. And
Yeah,
I'm
and what he's done, he set up a hierarchy, and he's saying, this is the way I see it. I see cosmic integrity, synergy, nature, unknown, universe. And he's
They're all
just
the
laid it
same.
out for us to discuss.
they all permeate each other and they all embrace each other. And if your brain wants to separate them somehow and make one less than the other, if my brain wants to do that, that's what my brain will do.
Yeah, but isn't that critical analysis?
If it's embracing and permeating, it's not separate. It's embracing, one embraces the other. And one permeates
but
the other.
the very fact that he's broken it down shows that he's saying, okay, there's these things to consider, and then he goes down and considers them.
Yeah, they're just ways of
As
calibrating.
he considers them, he's saying this is greater than that, this is greater than that, or this is less
He's
than.
not saying greater, he's saying includes. These are, this is one sphere of inclusion. It's one sphere of inclusion. That's what I've been meditating on, this heading here for a month and a half. But that's okay. I get you guys want to calibrate and break things down and make things mutually exclusive.
No, I'm not saying I want to. I'm saying Fuller did.
Well, good. And I'll say Fuller didn't. And I'll say Fuller didn't. And let's proceed with our conversation. He's saying,
How can you say Fuller didn't when he numbers off and he
because he
shows?
says they are embracing and permeating generalizations of generalization, that this is a one sphere of inclusion. There's not inclusions plural. There's not spheres plural. It's one sphere of inclusion. And the words are embracing and permeating. That I don't know.
But what stops me from embracing the concept?
What's that?
What stops me from embracing the concept?
Habit.
No, I embrace exactly what's on the page.
Well, he's saying that these things embrace each other and permeate each other. That's what he's saying. But look, I'm willing to let it go. And let's continue with the next me. I would like to invite you guys to score yourselves. I'm scoring myself on my intuitive self, my intellectual self, my sensorial self, and my memory bank self. And I will tell you that each day that I'm on this planet, I feel less and less memory banked.
Actually, that's interesting, Steve. That's quite interesting, because if you think about it as our development, we come from the baby, when I think we have intuitive and no intellect, some sensorial, but certainly no memory banking as a baby. As we grow, the focus in our society is on intellect and sensorial and memory banking. And as you say, as we get older, many of us, not necessarily all of us, but many of us go back to more intuitive and sensorial and less intellect, and less reliant on the natural memory banking. Although for me, I rely more on keeping notes, storing data, being able to access data, rather than relying on being able to remember it. Is that?
So would you say that's commanding the stored and restore?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, so there is a progression in the me's. Some become more dominant, then less dominant, some aspects, some of the facets of me.
Okay. Good. Any other comments, questions on that? Let's go to 14. I, by the way, added the symbol and the sphere of inclusion. He put it in at the top of each page, and I'm putting in at the top of each page. So I'm taking it out of where it existed here, assuming that the 18 are all embracing and all permeating. So now we have 14 and 15. Do you want to read, John?
Yeah, so 14, me, biophysically, atomic physics, nuclear structures. I really don't understand what me that is. And the 13, biochemically, exploratory chemistry, behavioral proclivities, atomic compound structures as atomic complexes. Would somebody explain those to me, please?
Would somebody please explain those to John and me?
But isn't he just saying that these are the things that are showing up? You know, there's atomic physics, there's nuclear structures. Those are things that have been spoken about in the last 20 or 30 years, really.
Perhaps 50.
And he's allowing for that to be there. And so it's like, I mean, Fuller was a writer for a magazine, for a science magazine. And so you could see where he's coming from. He's just bringing it out, putting it on. And I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he's categorizing it. And I'd say, if he were here today, that this list would be a hell of a lot bigger and it would be a lot different in the way that it looks, just simply because of the advancements we've made.
as prophetic as he was, I think he would see things today and would add to the list. I totally agree with you. What about the difference between biophysically, which is atomic physics, nuclear structure, and biochemically, the chemistry, behavioral proclivities? Anybody studied endorphins?
Not
It's
really.
another
no.
duality. To me, it's just, that's what it is.
Wow, I see more than a duality. I mean,
It
if
is
you
a
study,
duality of relationship.
if you study dopamine and how dopamine interacts with nuclear structures in the brain, the biochemical me relates to the biophysical me in there. And I have this basic biophysical structure that's influenced dramatically by my biochemical relationships. So I don't think one can exist without the other. And I think he's talking about, here he's talking about atomic structures, here he's talking about, or nuclear structures, here he's talking about atomic compounds and atomic complexes. He's talking about dopamine and how dopamine interacts with neurons. What do you think? Biophysical versus biochemical? If I could be biophysically me, and if suddenly I don't get enough dopamine, I'm going to be a different person. I'm going to act differently. I'm going to behave differently. Right? Have you guys seen the movie What the Bleep Do We Know?
Oh, yes, yes.
There's a whole thing about the little green gummy things that go up and crawl up and down people's legs and get them turned on and excited and pissed off, right? That's a beautiful dramatization of biochemical interfaces in biophysical structures. Comments, questions?
I will comment just to say a structure is meant to behave.
The structure is meant to be here?
To behave
Hey,
Okay.
in a certain way. And the behavior also defines the structure.
Okay.
So it is an equivalence in a relationship. It is a duality.
Bucky does not know about epigenetic code, I don't think. Epigenetic code was just coming out in the 70s. And back in Bucky's day, scientists believed that we had our DNA and we had our genetic code, and that was it. And there was a big conversation whether we were our environment or we were the result of our genetic code. And then all of a sudden, they came up with epigenetic code to find out that you and I can create behaviors that actually turn genes on and off.
According to you, Steve, the Da Vinci, Leonardo,
Mhm.
Yeah.
did he sense gravity? And did he see that it's something that can be measured?
Leonardo da Vinci,
Yep.
what did he have to do with gravity?
Well, I'm just saying, Newton, when he put his laws of motion, built on things that people intuited without formalizing, but they intuited, they knew that they strongly suspect, and they even came close to formulating those things, yet they didn't. So it means that the law was always there, but we haven't comprehended what it is. And we progress towards that. That's what it is. It's towards your comment that you made of Bucky. Bucky was about generalizing, trying to kind of discover these principles. And principles are things, relationships that are true everywhere.
embracing true everywhere.
Yes. So this is things in progress. I wouldn't, and it is a hierarchy. That's what it is. It's cosmic hierarchy. one embrace the other. Another comment that I wanted to make at the beginning is that when you take the set of numbers, let's just say integers, you have the positive integers and the negative integers. If you count from the cipher, both are infinite. Both are infinite. But yet, each of them is in the global set of integers. So the plus integers and the negative integers are infinite, those two subsets. They are part of the set of all the integers. And that is an analogy to the description that Bucky is doing here. And you cannot say it is a positive integer without saying that there is a negative integer. They always exist and coexist in terms of concept. I can't say +2 without saying there is -2. So they interpermeate in terms of relationship, but yet they are inclusive in the greater set. That's the comment I wanted to make to help understand these things.
Cool. Comments and questions? Anything
maybe-
else? Go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, maybe just one last thing, because there was a question that came out and I remember asking it, right? And yes, it's true in that in the heading itself, there is the word hierarchy, right? So this is a hierarchy. And so the one thing that got me thinking was because we said cosmic integrity is more than or includes synergy. So the last time I was asking, so if it's synergy, then what else is there besides synergy, right? So now thinking about it, it's everything else that is non-synergistic, right? So then we went down to nature. Nature, as per Bucky's definition, is that in nature, nature, okay, if it is part of nature, nature will allow it to happen, right? So then we were asking, what is then, what then the synergy includes, right? Or is greater than, if there's nature, then what else does it include? So I guess what is unnatural would be part of it. But what is unnatural now, I don't know. But are there other things? So like say cosmic integrity, it includes synergy, and now there's also non-synergistic whatever. And what else does it include? I don't know. And now synergy includes nature and also what is not natural, and then what else? So that's where my brain is right now, trying to figure this out. So if anybody has an answer to that one, not today, but next day, I'll be very happy. Okay.
Just a comment, Anne.
Hmm.
I wouldn't perform, that would be really pretentious of mine to ask absolutely the question. Therefore, what doesn't exist, what is not nature, and try to use it into my thinking. The reality is that I always know that what I know is infinitely small in comparison to what I don't know. And what we know, it is infinitely small in comparison to what we don't know. And that is the fundamental of the pursuit of veritas. Because if what we know were greater than what we don't know, everything dies. Right?
Okay, doesn't mean I'm just putting it out there.
Yes. So we have to be operative. To be operative, there's a sense of what you know that seem, and the word seem is important, that seem to be a principle. But it's always open to invalidation. And that's why the philosophy symbol is very important. There's a window to the top left that is open. We don't know. Something could happen that completely invalidate what we thought we knew. And we are obliged to, if we want to be tolerated by that nature, to revise what we thought we knew, which can be completely, it can invalidate everything. It happened. It's not the first, it's happened in history that things that come to light invalidate everything that was known before. That's the comment I can make on this thing. We are always, remember, in between, prodding, retracing, open to the newness, and progressing.
Okay. Wow, you guys. We went from 18 to 13. and we've got 12 more to go. And I guess, you know, I always want to do one more, but then we end up having a big discussion. So I'm going to propose we kind of end right now, and we'll tackle the scientist me. There are two scientists, 12 and 13, or 12 and 11. We'll tackle those later. We've just been contemplating 18 through 13. So let's wrap it up for tonight and take plenty of time on the takeaways, guys. Really get into it. We've got a few minutes here, but I'm afraid if we go much longer, we're going to go over. So John, how are you feeling tonight? What's your takeaway so far?
I don't know whether I know anything, but I certainly feel stimulated. It's been great to think of me, self, the facets, some parts that I think I know a bit about, but it's certainly promoted lots of thinking. And as I say, I'm not sure I know much more at the end than I did at the beginning, but I've enjoyed the journey. So thank you all for your contributions to the stimulation today. Feeling good. Grateful to be here, grateful to be part of it all. So Joe, how do you feel? What do you take out of today?
Oh, Joe,
Joe, you're on mute.
Oh, I don't know what is going on with this. I started to actually feel a little bit, I must admit, dizzy during the call. I'm not kidding. So it wasn't the discussion. It was actually, I was actually literally feeling a little dizzy. So, I mean, you know, it was, and so I guess it was in line with the conversation because I was getting a little bit dizzy with that as well. So and I'm still feeling a little bit dizzy. I don't know what it is. It's actually a little bit strange, to be quite honest. You know, I thought Anne had actually an interesting comment earlier on with her, I believe it was temporal inference that you're referring to a little bit. Is that correct, Anne? I just want to make sure I was actually TI.
No, somebody else mentioned TI. I wasn't sure what TI.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. All right.
It's Manu that said TI. Manu said TI.
Okay. Yeah, no, I found that was actually the brain-to-brain relationship. And I looked that up actually, and that seems to be very, very interesting and something else. This is something that I have to think about a lot. Some of the discussions that you guys were having, this is a video that I'll have to go back and watch. What Bucky meant by me, and I'm hoping that the subsequent number 13, 1 through 13 are actually will clear it up a little bit more for me. But it's really important. This is a very important topic, especially when we're talking about memory and what is being retrieved and what is not being retrieved. I have a lot of questions around that. That's a very important concept. How the brain actually sorts data and relates data it's a very important thing. I can't say that I have my mind around it, but again, I'm a little bit dizzy this evening, so But it was very, very interesting to listen to everybody, and I'm going to go back and listen to this again. So I appreciate the call itself. Manu, how are you doing, my friend? What did you take away from today?
I feel first grateful. I think that, this is the right place for us to bring what you think and see how really we can apply these things. And I have no doubt that of where the me is. My me is always in between. And is in between unknowns. And I really, like the breaking down of that me can be operative in my proceeding from where I am, that in-betweenness, and improving and helping to improve, the understanding and the responsibility and accountability of my actions. That's the greatest thing that I take from Bucky's geometry, and how I can apply, or how I can apply, is always, am I accountable? Do I see the consequences, action, reaction? Or do I provide for them? Or do I try to provide, to my best, provide for them? And that, together with what we endow with, which make us kind of not unique, but amongst others, empathy, really can be a very, very powerful driver for us to influence our environment to the better. That's what I take from here. So it's never a time wasted for me. I'm very thankful. So is it, who is left? Is it Anne?
And
Yes,
Kelly.
Anne, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Thank you, Manu. Okay, there are quite a lot here. And thank you so much for all the I guess the whole discussion that went on. It was very interesting to watch how each of us kind of take away very different things from what is.
Oh, she's mute. She's
She froze.
frozen. Oh, okay.
Technically.
Oh, you're back, Anne. Whoops. Start again, Anne,
Okay.
because you froze.
Okay, I'll just go on to the two things that really jumped out at me. The intuition part, this intuitive part of me, that discussion that we had, it's gotten me thinking, because what is going on in our school right now is this 2 days, 3,000 people coming through with about 1,000 participants for this hip hop competition that's going on. It's not just within our school, it's from people from all over Malaysia who's come in to compete, right? So I'm watching and I'm thinking, a lot of the boys in particular who are in hip hop, I can bet you a lot of them used to get into trouble in school all the time for not paying attention, because they're just too they're the kinesthetic, right? So they need to move, and it would have gotten into trouble. So I'm looking at the way they're flipping around and moving, and balancing on their head and their hand, and I don't know what else. And there's so much physics involved there. But they definitely didn't learn the physics because they probably wouldn't get engaged in school, but they are literally using physics, right? So that's one of the things that's popping up in my head. And I'm betting that they are moving in a very intuitive manner. Okay, so that's one. The other one that popped up is this, because I kind of checked. Bucky Fuller, he lived 88 years, right? From 1895 to 1983. And Kelly, you know him, right? Kelly, you've met him, you were trained directly.
No, I haven't trained with him directly. No, he was dead a long time before I knew anything about him.
Okay. So anyway, I'm looking at it. in that lifetime, I'm sure there were things that he came up with, let's say in the 40s, in 1940 something, he came up with something, right? 30 years later, when all these other things came along, did he have to kind of change out what he conceptualized or prove? It's just a thought for me. I don't know whether that happened or what happened, but it'll be pretty interesting to find out if anything changed drastically for him, that he had to change the science behind it, you know. Yep. So those are the two things I kind of took away. Okay. And Kelly, how do you feel and what is your takeaway?
I really don't know how I feel about it, in that I've got this thing where we've got the me symbol next to the integrity, or the integrity symbol. But if you look at the page before that, integrity stands alone. There's no me with it. And I think when you start to go down and look at it, there's nothing I can say other than less than. And it's because it's the only part where it has unity is plural at minimum of 2, as far as I'm concerned. It's got cosmic integrity right down to the me, to the last me. And when I get to the last me, it's gross communication, stone to stone, stone to water, thermodynamic, and so on. So it's like, to me, it's this boffin who sat down and said, let me work out whether I can work out a hierarchy. And in the hierarchy, let's just isolate something, because none of this can be isolated, really. When you're looking at it, you say, it's all there. It's all happening at the same time. You know, synergy is happening. You know, whether I recognize it or not, there's always synergy. There's always nature. There's always the unknown. There's always universe. You know, the metaphysical, the physical. And to me, it's just a way of looking at it and saying, okay, so how do I apply this? Now, my thought is, the way that we apply it is add to it. Not just read it and take it and say, okay, well, there's that. But there's so much more, like Anne was just saying, you know, where people are dancing, and they're dancing from a very intuitive point of view. And it's not thinking about it, it's doing it. And I think that's important to understand, that that's what we do. Would one of them sit down and read Synergetics? Probably not. Just like, you know, for some reason we have a strange attraction to Synergetics, or Fuller. But to me, it's all there. It's like he's giving it, and we can think about it separately or together. Cosmic integrity, as far as I'm concerned, is everything. It's not just the cosmic symbol and the me symbol. It's all of them together, and then it breaks it down. And intellectually, I can work it out and say where I'm at. So that's how I feel, and that's what I take away. Steve, how do you feel, and what do you take away?
Well, thank you. I'm feeling right now really grateful. I don't know if this call, I had the problem at the beginning because of my internet connection, but I noticed that all the emails came in at 8:10. I think Zoom was screwed up because I was on Zoom early and waiting for people to join. Joe got on Zoom and we were texting each other, but couldn't see each other there. I think Zoom had a problem, and it finally corked up at 8:10, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for my T-Mobile hotspot out here in the San Diego Marina, West Marina, and in my brother's boat. We just had a high school reunion, my 59th reunion.
You're showing your age now, Steve.
I know it's, but I snuck into school early. I graduated early, I promise. And
What, when you're 5?
no kidding. And so I'm really grateful that everything happened. I'll tell you, I'm absolutely convinced that the word hierarchy is actually an invitation to look at calibration or scaling. And I think it goes back to what Kelly said at the beginning of the call. We just saw the black hole. I just watched a 45-minute video on those 2 black holes that we've got now, in the center of the galaxy and in the center of another galaxy, you know, and I talked about one being 10,000 times bigger than the other. And even though it was further away, it was easier to see because ours is so small in our little galaxy. And it's all embracing and it's all permeating. I mean, if that black hole were in the middle of this galaxy, it would not freaking exist. I wouldn't freaking be here. And I'm going to be so bold to say that if I weren't here, that black hole would not exist.
Wow.
And I'm going to base that on Stephen Hawking, who talked about the Big Bang and the quanta that were prevalent in the Big Bang that would create absolutely perfect balance. I'm going to go find that quote and see if I can send it out to those who are interested.
Wow.
Steve, what exists if you weren't here?
The universe wouldn't be here. It'd be a completely different place.
Yeah, of course it wouldn't be, because you're not here.
That's exactly right.
It's because you're one of the 18 me's.
Absolutely right.
So
So my point is,
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I hear you. And I'm gonna just invite you to be with it. To me, it's very clear. Hierarchy is scaling. We would not see those black holes because that energy is so slow. It took telescopes on every sector of our planet to measure those waves because they were so slow coming in. And it took them months to calibrate those things and put them together. And then they had to scale them down to visible light in order for us to see them because they are not seeable. And I think that's what Bucky is doing with the hierarchy. As I look at, and I'm gonna look back on 105610, or at the top of that thing, the me is together with the cosmic integrity symbol at the very beginning. They are right together. And I'm going to say, what's that?
I agree.
Yeah. And I'm going to say that nowhere, if you look at his first table there in 105610, there's cosmic integrity at the top and universe at the bottom. Nowhere in cosmic integrity is there not universe. And nowhere in universe is there not cosmic integrity. They are all embracing and they are all permeating. And all Bucky did was say, let's put a lens on it and focus on a different vibration or a different category of beingness. But it's all the same thing. There is no greater than or less than. We could use those simple as macro, micro, maybe. So I'm going to posit that, totally convinced that everything is embracing and everything is permeating, and that leaves nothing out. And I'm so grateful. See, here it is, 9:52 in California. I'm in California. It's much later. Look at Joe's rubbing his eyes. It's midnight. It's 1 o'clock. You can't hear?
I really am. I'm a little dizzy.
You're still dizzy. Okay, good.
Yeah, I really am.
I am so grateful for everyone on this call and for your sincerity and for your willingness to speak the truth. And I hope you're as patient with me as possible. And I'm very I thought we'd get a lot further than 4 of the me's. And I'm so excited to look at them all again and continue. Maybe we'll get 4 more next time we get together. So I'm complete for tonight. I'm grateful for each of you and grateful for each of you sharing. And I got to tell you, Anne, you're inspiring to me, the way you're integrating this with your kids. I mean, wow, I probably have 4 teachers in my life that I can tell you right now changed my life. 4 teachers. My German teacher, Herr Maywald, I mean, that guy was such a stickler on German. If I missed one little thing, bam, the whole word was wrong. He didn't give me 5 points to say schön, schön. If I left off that umlaut, it was not a word. And I'm so grateful for him. And I can just see how those kids, I mean, you're supervising, but you're touching those teachers' hearts. Those teachers are touching the kids' hearts. Wow, I'm so glad I'm in your universe. And if you weren't in my universe, I wouldn't have a universe. Okay. So you're a critical part of my universe. All right. I love you all. Thank you for your patience. And
Cool.
see you next time.
Yeah.
See
Have a
ya.
good time, Steve.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What's that, Manu?
I say have a good time. I see that you're enjoying on the boat.
I'm on the boat. We're having a great time.
What time is it now?